And generational curses are real, but the majority of the time, a generational curse is just a toxic culture which has been passed down. In order to break generational curses, you must die in it. It's the only way. Like, you must be born again and transformed by the renewing of your mind. That which is born of flesh is flesh. That which is born of spirit is spirit. And you need to crucify your flesh in it. The word says, I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I have set before you life and death. Here, the blessing and the curse. So choose life in order that you may live. Yeah, you and your seed. That's generational. The curse is not lifted when they die or that person dies, innit? Whoever cursed you. Yeah, the curse is lifted when you die. And it's within your control as well. Okay, then. Pearl Cullen, welcome back. And today we're going to be talking about change. Okay, so I actually recorded this video last week, but I've decided to redo it so I wasn't happy with it. Yeah, the lighting kept changing and it was just distracting me in it. So yeah, again, I'm going to be pushing back enemies of the heart. I haven't had time to record it, but you know, such is life, innit? Anyway, just a couple updates and additional thoughts after the last video on hitting rock bottom and Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, so the psychological needs, which encompasses your social needs, your love and belonging and esteem needs, will be different for everyone. Like, the majority of the global population are extroverts who are energized and thrive off being around other people. But you also have introverts who are the opposite. Introverts have a limited social battery and are energized through solitude. So like me, for example, I can go without interaction for days on end and be perfectly fine. Now, Carl Jung breaks this down further into 8 psychological types, and Myers-Briggs breaks it down into 16, even more. I'll do a video about it in future, as it's important to understand your personality, your strengths and weaknesses, and that of others as well, especially when managing relationships. And I've found it to be quite useful in it, so I'll share that with you. Now, it said that there are 2 certainties in life, death and taxes. But there's a third, and that is that change is inevitable. Buddhists believe in impermanence, which is basically the acceptance that everything changes. Things are not permanent and everything is temporary. And personally, I've always agreed with that. Nothing lasts forever. Despite this, many people don't like change. Like, it's difficult for people to see the need to change within themselves. One primary reason being that it suggests that something is wrong with us and can impact our self-esteem. At least that's what I believe, yeah. We'd rather have others change and adapt to us than for us to do the work and change. That's partly why in relationships, it's easier for people to just leave than to stay and do the necessary work. Change is hard, it's difficult, and people have an innate preference to follow the path of least resistance. Now, because the world is constantly changing, we've got to change quickly and adapt. Yeah, people, like companies that handle change well, should and will thrive, whilst those that do not may struggle to survive. However, this doesn't mean that you have to compromise on God's word. Like, I hear a lot of Christians twisting scriptures and talking about context and the culture of the times and suggesting that things need to be done differently now because the times are different and we live in a different world. Yeah, these are your modern Christians or your progressive Christians. I despise tradition as much as anyone, especially if it serves no purpose. But God's words are flawless. I believe in an intentional God and a perfect God. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, everything he does, everything he says has a purpose, even if we don't understand it at the present time. The word says the grass withers and the flowers fade, but the word of God will stand forever. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. You know, like that. With that being said, there is nothing new under the sun. What has been will be again, and what has been done will be done again. So if you can recognize the patterns, you can put yourself at an advantage because there should be no uncertainties in life. Hence why he tells us to be anxious for nothing. Now, there are internal and external pressures that make change inevitable. So your external triggers are changes within the external environment. Yeah, these can be political, economical, social, technological, environmental, and legal. Like if you've studied business, you'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah, pestle or pest. My background's in corporate finance and investments. So excuse me if I get a bit technical, but I'll try and adapt it. Now, the reason for change within an entity could span any functional area of operation or level of control. For instance, a change in philosophy could be down to new ownership or a new CEO. If a new owner has come in due to a takeover or a merger, then there will usually be a lot of reorganization. That reorganization will usually result in new personnel. There may be promotions or transfers. There may be new rules and processes put in place, which may also require training and development. Conditions may change. Like if you receive a promotion, you might be called to a new location. Yeah. A promotion usually means more money, which means you can afford nicer things. Some men even upgrade their wives. Advancements in technology will often result in change. Like jobs can be created and they can be destroyed. We've seen it before and we're seeing it again to an even greater extent with AI, which is a whole other topic to discuss, and I'll probably do so in a future video. Now, if you think about this from a personal and spiritual viewpoint, if you surrender your life to Christ, Christ now becomes the CEO of your life. Like you will be under new ownership and everything will have to change. Okay. Now, there's different types of change, and change can be classified by the extent of the change required and the period with which the change is to be achieved. Okay. So if you can just visualize a 4x4 matrix, let's say, yeah. So you got the horizontal axis, your x-axis, and you got your y-axis, yeah, vertical axis. So let's say on the x-axis, you've got the extent of change, and this can range from realignment, yeah, small, to transformation, which is big. And then on the y-axis, you've got incremental, which is slow, and then you've got big bang, which is fast. Okay, so incremental realignment, which would be your bottom left hand quadrant, is usually adaptation. Okay, small changes made slowly or incrementally. Okay, and next to it, to the right, in the bottom right hand corner, you have evolution, big changes made incrementally. In the top left hand quadrant, you would have reconstruction, yeah, which is small changes made very quickly. And in the top right hand corner, you would have revolution. Yeah, this is transformational, big change made very quickly, yeah, made fast. Now, I've spoken about change before in the King Development Blueprint. Like, if you haven't seen it yet, then please check it out. The link will be in the description. And, I say in there that people change every 5 to 7 years. Yeah. I'll say that the majority of people will realign incrementally. That's the type of change that they are used to. They will simply adapt. That's small changes made over a greater length of time, implemented in a series of steps. Like you can focus on one specific area at a time, innit? But realignment doesn't involve a fundamental reappraisal of your core assumptions, beliefs, and culture. Transformation, on the other hand, demands a change in culture. It's a fundamental change that cannot be handled within the existing paradigm or your existing mental framework. It's normally driven by major external events, like it's usually unexpected life events that will result in transformation. Now, evolution can take a long period of time and is implemented gradually through interrelated initiatives, but results in a fundamentally different person once completed. Like it's normally taken in anticipation of a need for change, like it's proactive. Revolution is likely to be a forced change. Yeah, reactive transformation using simultaneous initiatives on multiple fronts and often in a relatively short space of time. Like it's rapid and likely to affect most, if not all, aspects of who you are and what you do. And again, if you consider this from a spiritual viewpoint, it's not going to be realignment, it's going to be transformational. Yeah, it's a major change. It's a fundamental change. You must do away with the old and begin anew. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind so that you may approve what the will of God is, that which is good and pleasing and perfect. You know, when Nicodemus was questioning Jesus, Jesus said to him, unless one is born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. You know, like that. You must die. Like, something has to die. Yeah, your existing beliefs have to be torn down. And for many, it will involve loss. Yeah, it will involve the removal of idols that you used to serve, in it. Like, we were all created to serve. It's painful, especially if you formed a deep attachment. Using myself as an example, I had to lose everything. Like, I lost my relationship, lost family, lost financial security. Like, I spoke about this in the last video. If you haven't watched it, then, you know, do check it out. Every single mental framework I had built up over a lifetime was torn down. Do you understand? And not of my own will, not of my own choice, you know, like that. Now, how you manage change and how successful you are at it will vary depending on the change and the person. Like, some people simply find change easier than others, but a key part of this depends on how well you understand the change process. One of the cornerstone models for understanding organizational change was developed by a man called Kurt Lewin, yeah, back in the 1940s, and it's still relevant today and can be applied to personal situations. Now, his model is known as Unfreeze, Change, and Refreeze, which it refers to a three-step process of change. Now, Lewin explained organizational change using the analogy of changing the shape of a block of ice. So if you have a large cube of ice but conclude that what you want is a ball or sphere of ice, first you must melt the ice to make it amenable to change, yeah, unfreeze. Then you must mold the ice to water into the shape that you want, yeah, that's the change process. And finally, you must solidify the new shape, okay, refreeze. To begin any successful change process, you must first start by understanding why the change must take place. Motivation for change must be generated before change can occur. You have to be assisted, although the majority of the time you have to be pushed to re-examine many of your core assumptions and beliefs about yourself and your relations to others. So the first stage of change involves preparing to accept that change is necessary, which involves breaking down the existing status quo before you can build up a new framework for doing things. Okay. Now, key to this is having a compelling message showing why the existing way of doing things cannot continue. And this is easiest to frame when you can point to tangible factors. So, like, in a business context, this could be, you know, declining sales figures or poor financial results or terrible customer satisfaction surveys. Now, in your personal life, your life might be falling apart. It might be going to shit or simply, you know, not how you expected it. And this tends to evoke strong reactions in people. But that's exactly what needs to be done to build a strong motivation to seek out a new equilibrium. Like, it has to come from a need, yeah? Like Goku told Gohan, you know, it has to come from a need and not a desire, innit? Like, desires are not enough when it comes to transformational change. The first part of the change process is usually the most difficult and the most stressful. When you start tearing down the way things are currently done, everything's thrown off balance, isn't it? Especially when that culture is all you've ever known or you've been living a certain lifestyle for years. Now, after the uncertainty and anxiety created in the unfree stage, the change stage is where you should begin to resolve that uncertainty and look for new ways to do things, okay? So you should start to believe and act in ways that support the new direction that you're going in, okay? Now, the transition from unfreeze to change doesn't happen overnight. Like, it takes time, innit? You're likely to pass through 4 stages. 4 stages. That's shock and or denial, anger and or fear, acceptance and commitment, okay? Which is kind of similar to the 5 stages of grief, to be fair. And again, it's because it involves loss in it. Now, in order to accept the change, you need to understand how it will benefit you. And when it comes to spiritual growth here, or spiritual development, you ought to know who God is for yourself, innit? Like, one of the books that really helped me was Show Me Your Glory by Dr. Stephen Lawson. Like, I've got it up on the shelf. Yeah. And you need to seek him daily in it and be in that word daily. Yeah. Not in Show Me Your Glory, but in the word, in the Bible, in the book. You've got to be in that word daily during this process. Now, 9 times out of 10, when you're changing, you will go through a season of isolation, innit? I'll speak more about this season in another video because it's important, and I feel like many people don't understand it or the purpose of it, because many people don't like to be alone or know how to be alone, so they get agitated very quickly by it. But one of the benefits of isolation is that it makes the change process easier. Okay, so many of your current or former relationships will change, and some may even have to end completely. Like, they will hinder your progress. They will act as barriers to sustained change, especially when it comes to spiritual growth. Like, when you choose to walk the path of righteousness and pursue holiness, the majority of your existing friends will not like it. Yeah, they will probably doubt your ability to change, especially if they feel like they've known you for a significant period of time, innit? And they will test you. And it's especially difficult if you're in a romantic relationship at the time, because you won't be equally yoked anymore. And I'll speak about being equally yoked and unequally yoked in another video. Yeah, because that's important too. Yeah. Now, in a business context, a company or manager would try and generate short-term wins to reinforce the change where possible. Okay, it's more difficult when it's you alone. It's difficult to generate short-term wins for yourself. Now, with that being said, when I was going through it, I experienced the blessings. Like, I could feel God's favor working in my life, like that. But those were few and far between. There was never any guarantee, and I never knew when the next one was coming. So like I said, you've got to really want it, because you'll be tempted to default and revert back to old behaviors, patterns, and relationships, okay, without these short-term wins. Now, when the changes are taking shape and you've embraced the new behaviors and ways of doing things, you're ready to refreeze now, okay? And the refreeze stage is to help internalize the changes. So this means making sure that the behaviors and ways of doing things now become habits, in essence, okay? Now, they say it takes 2 to 3 months to form a habit, but when you're talking about spiritual growth, I would say give it at least a year minimum. Yeah, because when you deep it, like, you have to unlearn a lifetime of toxicity and learn to do the opposite, like that. Hence why Jesus said to just dead the whole thing and start again. And it's not like you can just learn Kung Fu within 10 seconds like Neo did. It doesn't work like that at all. Yeah, nah. You have to be patient with yourself, but also be intentional about it. Yes, God's grace is everlasting, but God shouldn't be mocked either. Just don't take the mick with it. As part of the refreezing process, you want to make sure that you celebrate the success of the change in it, because it helps people find closure. It thanks them for enduring a painful and difficult time, and it helps them believe that future change will be successful in it, because as again, like, change happens all the time. Change is inevitable. Yeah, but that's in a business context. Like, in a personal context, there will be no one thanking you for enduring a painful or difficult time. Like, you have to wait until you die, essentially. So it's a challenge, but again, like, you have to really want it and believe in why you're doing it. Do you understand? You have to have a why, and stand on that why too. But yeah, in essence, that's change. I hope I've covered enough. If I haven't, then I'll probably revisit it in the next video. Yeah, but that's it for today, pal Cullen. Until next time, see you next week. I will definitely be doing Enemies of the Heart. I will get around to it. Yeah, I want to get it done before the new year. I hope you all have a blessed week. Until next time, pal Cullen.